Hello, welcome, I'm Neil Inall. In the next few minutes, we'll show you how your livestock operation can be made easier and more profitable by just one decision. If you're a producer, a buyer or an agent, that one decision offers you a powerful ally in times that are not getting any easier in the livestock and meat business. That decision is to use CALM, Computer-Aided Livestock Marketing, which in just a few years has done more to modernise marketing than almost anything else in the history of Australian farming. Since CALM began in Australia, and we were the first in the world to develop a national sale by description market, the meat industry at all levels has watched it, sometimes suspiciously, sometimes critically, sometimes optimistically, but always closely. It won't work, some said, but it has worked. It won't last, some said, but it has lasted. It's only for big operators, was a common doubt. Now, we'll show you later how wrong that was. It's too hard, they said. Well, we'll show you the opposite. It can be as easy as making a telephone call. How does CALM work? Jim Downs draws a quick picture.
Friday morning, 10 o'clock. No one calls Salo, no dust, no dogs, no bleats or bellows. The screens light up green on black, and Australia's national livestock market, CALM, is open for business. The technology's impressive, but let's establish early in the piece that it's all just a tool. Powerful it is, and CALM couldn't operate without it. But all these screens and circuits do is provide a meeting place for buyers and sellers. It's an electronic marketplace, where more sellers and more buyers mean more competition and better value for both. 10 o'clock Friday. At Coonamble, New South Wales, stock agent Don Sheeb logs into the CALM network. This week and every week, his clients are selling through CALM. Bob and Beverly HOGLAND have come in to see their cattle offered. To the south, at Forbes, Lex Crosby, livestock manager for Lockley Meats, logs on as a buyer. There are 27,000 companies and individuals registered on the CALM network. They form a national market that's never existed before. That was the purpose of CALM, as Chief Executive Howard Gardner explains.
CALM was established as a national market because the livestock industry funded the research and then also the development of CALM, and it is a national market, and in every state CALM market, the prices that are achieved on CALM are used to set the price for stock that are sold over the hooks and by some other means. But CALM is now well and truly established as the market setting mechanism.
Buyer Lex Crosby at Forbes has had the sale catalogue since Wednesday night. It's compiled in the late afternoon and is available on the computer system from 8 o'clock Wednesday night. He bids, touching just 5 keys. The price escalation is automatic, the equivalent of $2 a time on cattle, with the computer system automatically adjusting for cents per kilo bidding. The instant his bid is registered, the whole system records it, though the identity of the bidder is not shown. That means, among other things, the end of the days of a wink and a nod. There are fewer buyers of livestock in Australia these days. Amalgamations, takeovers, the machinations of big business have had their effect. For producers, CALM is a defence mechanism against shrinking competition. The blinking price figures indicate that bids have come close to the seller's reserve. The highlighted figures mean the reserve has been reached, and unless there are further bids, that will be the sale price. Remember, the animals these numbers represent haven't left their owner's property. They're still out there somewhere, grazing and peaceful, unstressed by transport and the jostling of the sale yard. If there's no sale today, they'll stay there to gain a bit more weight until offered again when the market is judged to be better. That flexibility, that mastery over a fickle market, is something only CALM can offer. This is the equivalent of a national sale yard. For the first time, buyers from Victoria can bid for stock in Queensland.
In the last segment, Jim Downs presented a broad picture of livestock marketing in the 90s. As he said, that's impressive technology, but it's only a tool. We don't need to worry about it. CALM's got it up and running, and it's CALM's problem to keep it running. Now, in case you're wondering, it very, very rarely goes wrong technically. After some early problems, the level of reliability is now close to 100%. Howard Gardner, CALM's chief executive, defines CALM essentially as a communication system adapted to the special purposes of his organisation. It's a livestock market. It's still an auction, but using the communications technology of our times. We don't need to understand how it works. What's important is that it does work. Jim Downs again with Mick Kennedy, a lamb producer in the wonderfully named New South Wales district of Come By Chance.
Come back. Come here.
It's just a phone call. Just ring up the agent and ask him whether he'd be able to calm them. And all he does is come out here and do what he's doing today. And then they go on, probably going on Friday. And that's all it is.
The phone call brings Coonamble CALM agent Don Sheeb, an accredited CALM assessor, with school holidaying son Duncan as additional muscle to handle the portable scale. The CALM assessment procedure uses the AusMeat livestock language as the basis for the sale by description system. For Mick Kennedy, it works well.
Well, I sold all my lambs from it last year, and they, well, I don't know whether they topped the market on CALM, but they brought back a lot more for me than they would have any other way.
Don Sheeb's having a long day. He's one of the principals of the Coonamble agency Dalgety Sheeb Reins, and one of the skilled network of agents across Australia contracted by CALM as blue ribbon agents.
It's actually a whole new role of learning with classification and that type of grading, classification, and what's involved in the wholesale selling of meat. As an agent, normally you don't worry about it. All you have to worry about is just selling the stock. But this way, you become more involved. You understand what the producers have to produce to sell, and what the meat buyers or meat companies are actually trying to get us to provide.
Don's day began some hours' drive away at Tony Pye's cattle station, Calga West. His lines of steers and heavy cows will sell on CALM this week.
Muscle score C+.
The assessment system is the foundation of CALM. AusMeat's development of the livestock language made it possible. Assessors' rigid adherence to it keeps it working. The idea is that what Don Sheeb classifies in fat and muscle and type will be accepted by buyers sight unseen, who will agree that the expertise of Don and qualified assessors like him guarantee the description of the livestock they classify.
320, reject.
Tony Pye, owner of Calga West at Coonamble, is here because he wants to be part of the assessment process. He doesn't have to do the penciling for the assessor, he chooses to. He's talked to Don Sheeb about market requirements and agreed on a minimum weight for the steers he's selling. So it's Tony Pye, the owner, who calls the rejects. And that adds to his control over the selling process, something producers have long wished they had. These steers will go to market as figures on a computer screen. Right through the whole process, they'll go on grazing on the same pastures that produce them. The producer will bear none of the costs of double or treble transport, nor the animals it stresses and risk of physical damage.
Very few industries would expect to prosper on the somewhat sloppy or inexact basis we've tended to use in Australian primary production. You'll remember when we sold fat lambs and fat steers, fat cows selling at this price or that price, fat HUGHES, but no more. Fat's a dirty word in these days of cholesterol counts and disciplined diets. We're trying to sell now to markets both home and abroad with the most rigorous standards of quality measurement. Because customs are now stipulating maximum fat coverage, Buyers must know to the millimetre how much fat's on the beast they're buying, how much muscle, what exactly is the dress weight. We could never have told in the past. Until Ausmeat developed its livestock language, the only measures were those of individuals, and no two were alike enough to form a standard. CALM assessments are precise enough to draft a line of stock according to the exact demands of various overseas markets. On Malcolm Cater's property, Gillawarrina, at Trangie in New South Wales, Mike Dibbs, an independent assessor for CALM, sorts cattle for Japan, Korea and Europe.
But, you know, that's why we're being
put him EEC, 520, top end of EEC.
Mike Dibbs keys in his assessment of each animal on a computer connected to the scale. The assessment standards used by CALM describe cattle in more detail than has ever been available to buyers before. Even the temperament of each animal is described, where it was bred, what pastures it has grazed, what dips and drenches have been used, whether or not growth promotants were fed to it.
So when the cattle are coming through, we were drafting them three ways: EEC specifications, Japanese specifications and Korean specifications. Normally, a year or two ago, when you'd go to the yards, the agent would have the cattle drafted up. He'd have all his nice little pole Herefords together, his nice little horned Herefords together, Angus cattle drafted off by themselves and so on. But times have changed a lot. Now the buyers are looking for animals that are going to fit a market specification.
Assessment done, the owner and his agent get an on-the-spot printout of the result.
It looks like there's 42 or 3 in the Japanese section, which is ideal. From the weight
well, that's what the end user wants, is meat, and we have to. The one that pays is always right, and so you have to go for what people are wanting. Yes, we are producing meat for the table.
One of the perceptions CALM has worked to establish is that cattle looking good in the show ring are not necessarily going to yield the kind of end product today's market wants. CALM sees as part of its most valuable work the education of producers about market demands, and through assessors, reminding producers that the whole process of their industry is aimed right here, at the plate of the final consumer. CALM maintains a detailed feedback program. Remember those tags attached to each animal during assessment? They stay with the beast right through to the slaughter process. It's here that the skills of both producer and assessor can be exactly judged. The carcass data from each animal, measured by Ausmeat standards, is computer processed and sent on to CALM. Agents then report back to the producer. Payment is made by livestock agents as for any other sale. Jim Goldsmith of Coonamble hears from agent Don Sheep the results of his consignment.
I think you see since you've been using CALM for about 4 years now, and you can start to see results in the better grade of cattle you're buying.
Such detailed feedback is one of the most valuable services CALM provides. For the first time, producers can see the detailed results of all their work.
If it doesn't teach anything else, it teaches what sort of cattle you should be buying anyway.
There's a greater recognition now, firstly as a result of the CALM training of assessors, and secondly as a result of Ausmeat feedback workshops which they've been running for the last 3 or 4 years, that producers are producing a product, a raw material for a saleable product which is meat. And that has made them interested in dressing percentages, in daily weight gain, things like gut shrink, what happens after animals are taken from the paddock and they're put in somewhere overnight or they're put on a truck, bruising. There are all sorts of areas now that relate to the end product meat that thinking producers are now thinking of, and the next wave behind them are starting to think they've got to think about them.
As you know, Australia's livestock producers have traditionally proved to be a pretty resilient mob. They like to be masters of their own destiny and to exercise control over their marketing. CALM gives producers a level of control they've not previously had. But that's not enough for some producers. They're now seeing a further evolution, with producers throughout Australia banding together in marketing groups. Their objective? To gain better market intelligence and to collectively cash in on the opportunities CALM has to offer. Recently, Tony Crowley spent time with the coordinator of one of these groups in the cattle country of central Queensland.
We didn't think that CALM really performed for us as individuals, and so we decided to try a group approach method, and we have been pleased with the results. It was a good way to go.
DYAN and Richard Hughes run up to 6,000 cattle on their central Queensland property, Wentworth. And their first experience with electronic selling wasn't anything to write home about. But then they found a new strength in numbers. Very informal groups of beef producers who don't have meetings, don't even need to see each other. They just sell their cattle together. The way the groups work is that a number of producers from the same area will coordinate the day they'll sell on CALM. This, of course, puts a lot more cattle on the market and so attracts more buyer interest to this particular area. Now, in doing so, the buyers should then be more competitive in the prices they'll pay for these cattle. And it works in practice.
Our first sale, we had 40 decks of cattle on, and it provided a focus and it created a lot of interest for the buyers, so we did get the buyer attention there and the buyer support right from the first sale. And when we started, we only intended to put a few head on CALM. We've had such good results ourselves that we've sold exclusively our prime stock on CALM.
The CALM system's not only attractive to groups wanting to sell finished cattle, but also to individuals who want to buy store cattle like these. Cattle that can be put into feedlots or out to pasture just to build up condition and then be sold as much more valuable animals later on. Selling store cattle is what DYAN plans to use CALM producer groups for in the future.
We have about 12 processors operating on the cattle out of this area. With stores, you could have many hundreds of people operating, but one reason it's very important to coordinate it properly is we haven't got those buyers educated. We have got the processors using it. It's going to take a bit more to get the producer, who is actually the customer for the store cattle, to use it. And we have sold to the Northern Territory and to Western Australia, as well as locally or, in Queensland. But we've only had one person come and look at the cattle or taken them to the sale yard and had perhaps 20 buyers there. By putting them on CALM, we'll have all of Australia there once we get those people educated to be using the system.
For Diane Hughes, producer groups will continue to be needed for at least another couple of years to attract people and cattle to the CALM system. She also sees the groups as a way of providing a voice within CALM to make sure it's working the way the people using it want it to work.
The real test of CALM for that producer looking for better sales results is to try it. Not once, but twice or 3 times. It's a bit like everything else in life. CALM has found that after 3 sales, practically every producer has a proper understanding of it and is enthusiastic about the benefits of the CALM system. Jim Downs talked to some of them, as well as to agents and to buyers.
It's the best way to sell them because they go to auction and everybody can have a go at them, and the cattle that we've sold in the last few weeks, the results have been excellent. Far better than we could have expected to receive in the sale yards or by direct selling.
Through this system, you broaden the horizon of those that are interested in that market. With the local sale yard, you might be very fortunate and pick a day where the buyers are there that are interested in your article. But on the other hand, you may not be. They may not be there on that particular sale day, in which case you get a discounting and your article's gone. You don't take it to town just for the ride and then bring it home, whereas if you're not happy with the sale result on the calm system, then they're still in your paddock, and perhaps there are then still options available to you. Many people feel that unless you could fill up a double of cattle, then you would be discounted on the calm system. One case in point, cows we sold on calm just last week, we only had 28, which is a fairly odd number to sell if there's a big freight component to be included in that from the buyer's point of view. And we could only muster up the 28 that we wanted to sell, cull cows that were preg tested empty, and calm was definitely the best way to go compared to the local sale yard, despite the fact that we didn't really have a number that most people feel that calm normally has to require.
It gives me that extra string to my bow, which we all need. We need options, and this is an option that we use. We sell other ways too, but when we have the right mob of cattle for the job, we prefer to go to calm because it's straight from the property to the abattoir, less stress on the cattle, and we're getting paid for what we're producing.
Otherwise, you're at the mercy of all sorts of elements. And the elements can be pretty hard on the old purse strings if they don't go in your favour.
Because once you have your cattle through the yards and that, well, you're supposed to knock a couple of weeks, the stress and everything, sort of knock them around. You bring them into town here. Sometimes we brought cattle into town here and took them home. And then because we weren't satisfied with the prices at the yards, other times we've gone in there and been good prices. So you sort of, whereas here you do your mustering, you let them back out in the paddock, and they're out there. They're not in here to be handled on trucks and a couple of times bruised and whatever.
With this system, we found what some people, a lot of the clients like about it, is the fact that they've got an auction running on their property. Their stock is still on the property prior to sale, and one of the big things that we notice that all producers are looking for that they don't seem to have with a lot of their products is that I think the average person loves to know how much his stock are worth before they leave home rather than when they're down the track, and that's what this system does provide. And also I think its flexibility is starting to take a lot of the other arguments against it out of it. We've been selling in lines from 15 head up to 300 head, so it does have that flexibility.
I started buying on calm when it first commenced, when I was livestock manager for Riverstone Meat Company. I've kept buying all the way through. We look into each Friday sale. We use it as another alternative market. We buy cattle both for the feedlot and for the abattoirs. It brings a cattle from a lot of different areas, a number of cattle from a lot of different areas into the one catalogue, which gives us a chance to operate over a wide area. It saves a lot of travelling.
One of the misunderstandings about calm you sometimes hear around the traps is that if it's so good, why after 4 years of operation is it not yet making a profit? Well, the reason is that calm's priorities set the establishment of new services and improvements to existing ones ahead of making immediate profits. Education's a good example. When calm was established, no one imagined its information and education role would become as vital as they have. Calm is, as Chief Executive Howard Gardner proudly claims, a superb communication system. It's the market trendsetter. But through its intelligence and market information services, Calm can provide primary producers with national and international marketing information, financial, political, and even weather situations that can influence farm planning. Again, in the education role, more than 3,000 people have completed the Calm Livestock Assessment course. Only 200 of them regularly work as assessors, but the knowledge gained by the others is of immense value to the industry as they apply what they've learned about assessment to everyday stock management. Now, Calm is a producers' organisation. It belongs to all the cattle, sheep, lamb and pig people. They've paid for it. CALM's funding is decided by the Cattle and Sheep Meat Councils of Australia. Well, what's in the future for CALM? Jim Downs asked Chief Executive Howard Gardner how he saw the way ahead.
A basic objective is to have a sale by description mechanism that provides a series of benefits to the users, both producers, agents and meat processors. But none of us really saw CALM as being the communication system that it's turned out to be. In respect to market intelligence, we always thought it would be valuable, but its value to people who don't necessarily sell on CALM has exceeded anything I ever expected. There are more people who are perhaps using the market intelligence and not selling on CALM than are doing the opposite. The fact that the system is able to provide specific information in respect to a specific animal, that is information which livestock producers and agents have never had before. It's highly valuable stuff when you start multiplying, say, 10 or 12 cents a kilogram by 250 kilogram by 100 head of cattle.
The 27,000 registered users of CALM are a national information network of incalculable importance.
Can I get some rates this morning? Okay.
A wide range of information is regularly updated. It includes price trends for sheep and cattle. Users can compare present-day markets with those of a year ago, and even price trends in different parts of the country. Currency exchange rates are detailed.
Thank you very much.
There are detailed market reports and commentaries, and news of events which could impact on future price trends, such as new tenders for the Korean market. The marketing system, now well established in the livestock field, can readily be adapted to other products. Wool is a possibility. There have been some talks already about that prospect.
The CALM system should be used. There's nobody got a system that can come up to with what we have, nor could they put one together. We'd have about a 1 year lead time or 1 year march on anybody who want to put anything else together.
Most types of grain are being sold on CALM through the National Grain Exchange, and hay has been sold as well. The growing trade in cut flowers could use CALM, and the marketing system for fish cries out for updating. Any product capable of assessment and description could be sold by the CALM system. Livestock Assessor Mike Dibbs.
Quite a few years ago, I made a comment that CALM's only limited by your imagination, and I will still stick with that comment. I've learned how to use CALM as an assessor. Malcolm's learning how to use CALM and has learned how to use CALM as a vendor. And Angus has learned how to use CALM as an agent. And provided you're positive and you go out with a positive approach and say, right, I can do this. I can put these cattle together to do this, I can do this, or whatever you want to do, you can do it. All you've got to do is think about it and you'll make the thing work. It's easy.
So there we have it. CALM as it stands, or if you like, how it operates today and how it could operate tomorrow. For the people we've just met, producers, agents and buyers, CALM has proved its worth. Naturally, it's up to each individual to make his or her own decision about how they feel the CALM option might become a part of their business. It's obviously worth having a close look at.